Well, hello and welcome back to my next video. We are at the county cemetery, also known as the Richmond or St. Croix County Cemetery, established in 1897. This cemetery is actually part of the New Richmond Insane Asylum, poor house, poor farm, however you want to term it. And it also is a place where others are buried, and that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, I'm just going to get comfy here, and we're going to talk about a few of the people buried in this old cemetery. Now, this cemetery, like I said, was part of the Insane Asylum, later called the County Home, and then later called the County Hospital. This cemetery is actually located in the middle of a cornfield, so you cannot get here by road. You do need to walk through a cornfield, and it's only accessible in the spring and fall due to, obviously, the corn. Now, we figure there are approximately 100 people buried on this hill, and this is just half of the cemetery. The other half is at the bottom and is accessible by road. A majority of the people buried here, based on my research anyway, are people that had no family to claim their bodies or had no money to pay for a burial. Future Kate here, someone, that'd be me, forgot to hit the record button, so now we're left with a voiceover. Lovely. Okay, so the first person we're talking about is Frank Raymond Paulus. Now, Frank was a pretty interesting guy. He was born in Oshkosh, Wisconsin in 1903. His mom suddenly passed away. Well, I don't know if it was suddenly, but sadly passed away when he was only 5 years old. His dad went on to remarry and have more children with a second wife. Now, Frank was a troublemaker from a very early age. I don't know how early, because the earliest article I can find, he is 17 years of age, and he was clearly in trouble prior to that. So let's read that first, shall we? Paulus is found. Oh yes, Paulus is found. Will go to prison. Frank Paulus, 17 years of age, who escaped from the county jail late Monday afternoon with Stanley Gunther, an alleged burglar, was at liberty not quite 2 days. He was apprehended and taken into custody by police officer Shablasky as he was planning to leave the city on a Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul train shortly before 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. This forenoon, Paulus was brought into municipal court to answer to an information filed by District Attorney Allen, charging him with a larceny on September 8th of a bicycle valued at $60. Paulus pleaded guilty, and following a statement of the case by District Attorney Allen, Judge Goss sentenced him to a term of 1 year at hard labor in the state prison at Waupun. Yeah, that's like Wisconsin's maximum security prison. Like, this guy wasn't messing around. This was the maximum sentence that could be given Paulus for his offense, and was asked for by Mr. Allen, who told the court that Paulus had served time in the House of Corrections at Milwaukee, had broken out of that institution, been in trouble here prior to his arrest for stealing the bicycle, and had escaped from the county jail here. He was remanded to the county jail and will be kept there until he can be taken to Waupun. And that's not where our story ends, friends. Oh, no. See, Frank, he had some sticky fingers. He ended up serving time not only in Wisconsin, but also in the Washington State Prison and 2 California state prisons. He stole a car in Washington State, apparently to get to California, and then somehow he got to California and he committed third-degree burglary. Yeah, he served time in San Quentin and Folsom Prison. So, the guy had quite the history. Now back to our regular programming. The final article I'm going to read is from the Oshkosh Daily News. This is October of 1940. Frank Paulus of Oshkosh, a frog catcher who sells to wholesalers and dealers, died after a fist fight last night outside a tavern in the village of Star Prairie. Sheriff Carl Simonson of St. Croix said today. The sheriff said that he had detained William Kohler of Oshkosh, a competitor of Paulus, and that Kohler admitted having been involved in a fight. The fight occurred shortly before midnight following a quarrel which apparently began in the tavern. Sheriff Simonson stated, William Kohler has been arraigned on a charge of second-degree manslaughter. He pleaded innocent to the charge, which the sheriff said was placed after a post-mortem showing that Frank Paulus died of a double skull fracture. Date for preliminary hearing has not been set. Paulus was aged 37. Based on his burial location, I'm guessing Frank's family had a hard time with him. So I'm not sure why Frank was the way he was, but he was. and he is buried here. So I figured we'd finish up my video at one of my favorite locations, a beautiful river. Now in regards to some of the other inmates at the New Richmond Asylum, I was able to find records on a few, and I thought I would share them with you. First, we have Annie Carr, a white female, about 29 years of age. Her father was born in Canada. Her mother was born in Canada. She was born in Canada. Her date of birth is not known, which I find incredibly sad. Her date of death was December 10th, 1900. Her residence at time of death was listed as Stevens Point, Wisconsin, but her place of death is listed as Star Prairie, Wisconsin, which, like I said, or maybe I didn't say, New Richmond and Star Prairie are right next to each other, and they are oftentimes used interchangeably in historical stories. Cause of death was epilepsy. She was 23 years old. Other important facts: she was an inmate of the asylum since July 1899. Next we have Leon Dwight Goldsmith, white male, occupation laborer, age at death 37 years, birthplace Maryland, US, condition single, date of death December 18th, 1901, residence at time of death River Falls, Wisconsin, place of death Star Prairie, Wisconsin, cause of death leukemia, length of disease 2 years, place of burial Star Prairie, Wisconsin. Other important facts: inmate of asylum. Next we have Boletta Amundsen, maiden name not known, white female, Caucasian housewife, 33 years old, name of father unknown, birthplace of father Norway, name of mother unknown, birth of mother Norway, birthplace of deceased Norway, date of birth of deceased unknown, condition married, name of husband or wife A.J. Amundsen, date of death January 22nd, 1904, cause of death epilepsy and meningitis, duration of disease several years, place of death Star Prairie, Wisconsin, residence at time of death Baldwin, Wisconsin. She was not listed as an asylum patient, so I don't know if she was or was not. Then we have Norman Finvold, white male, Caucasian, occupation shoemaker, age 25 years, birthplace of father Norway, birthplace of mother Norway, birthplace of deceased Norway, condition single, date of death November 2nd, 1904, cause of death tuberculosis of lungs, place of death Star Prairie, residence at time of death Baldwin. Other important facts: he was sent to the poorhouse where he died. Then we have Christine Loveland, white female, housewife, 31 years of age, birthplace of father Sweden, birthplace of mother Sweden, birthplace of deceased Sweden. She was single. Date of death of deceased July 12th, 1906. Residence at time of death Ashland County. Place of death Star Prairie, Wisconsin. Cause of death tuberculosis. Duration of disease several years. Place of burial Asylum Farm. Other important information: inmate of St. Croix County Asylum, had no folks in this country. Then we have William Archat, date of birth 1917, in Wisconsin, date of death September 22nd, 1940, age 22 to 23, burial at County Hospital Cemetery. This is the story of William, Indian youth victim of hit and run driver at Stillwater Sunday. Bill Archat, age 23, believed to be Indian youth from the reservation at Green Bay, was struck and fatally injured by a hit and run driver near the Stillwater Bridge early last Sunday. His skull was fractured and both legs broken. He died at Lakeview Hospital in Stillwater. Later, his body was taken to Hudson as the accident occurred in St. Croix County. An inquest was to have been held in that city. Archat is a native of Oneida, but left there 6 years ago, according to his father, William Archat Sr. Other survivors are a brother, Emmy, and a sister, Mrs. George Peters, Oneida. Funeral arrangements have not been completed. And finally, I have the story of Anton Swenson. Anton immigrated from Denmark to the United States in the late 1800s. He went on to marry his bride, Annie, in 1899. In 1900, Anton and Annie began working at the Asylum in Richmond. The day after they started, Anton was brutally murdered by one of the inmates. The story goes, Anton Swenson, an attendant at the county asylum in Richmond, was killed by Bert Arstein, an inmate, who struck him on the head with an axe. Swenson and wife went to work at the asylum June 8th. This is the first fatal accident at the institution. The remains were sent to Knapp, his former home. He left behind a young wife, father, mother, and 6 siblings. Anton is buried in Knapp, Wisconsin, with his family. And that completes my stories of the St. Croix Insane Asylum. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.